Hello. I was browsing ArtStation the other day looking for some interesting things to try and recreate in Blender when I came across this Moody street render made in Unreal Engine. I ran into a lot of challenges making this and thought they might make for some good lessons for others. As usual, I start by blocking out the scene and getting the overall composition right. I try to keep things simple during the blockout stage. This dirt, for example, is just a subdivided plane with a displacement modifier using a cloud texture. The fence is a rectangle that I arrayed across. I'll replace this with wood post assets later. In fact, I end up replacing the entire fence with a stone wall, but we'll get to that. Don't be afraid to tweak pre-made assets to better fit your scene. You'll see me doing that multiple times in this video when I come across an asset that isn't working the way I want it to. This asphalt material will receive multiple passes. The road is wet and covered with leaves, so we'll need to mess with the roughness and do some layer painting to get it looking nice. I'm using a new image texture and painting white values on it to act as a mask that will blend between the different materials. This is a pretty common technique used in game engines and programs like Substance Painter. I like to break up straight lines by using the random transform operator in edit mode directly on the vertices. Keep the strength low. I also subdivided the posts and jumped into sculpt mode to push and pull faces around and keep everything from being too perfect. I didn't like what I did here. I tried breaking up the curb with rock assets to make it look more worn down, but it just didn't have the effect I wanted. Thankfully, the curb is toward the side of the frame, so it's not too big of a deal. Here, I'm converting this rounded corner into a curve and using it to bend the barricade with the array and curve modifiers. The front face of the small building on the right is made with the images as planes technique. I also made use of the clone brush to fix the texture. Apparently, the Blender devs changed the keyboard shortcut for cube projection, which is super annoying because it's basically muscle memory for me at this point. This corrugated metal roof is super easy to model. Just add some edge loops, select every second loop, and pull it up. Then add a solidify modifier and give it a rusty metal texture. A big part of this process is incrementally adding set dressing. You'll see me toggling between render and solid views to make sure everything looks right, and I consistently work from camera view to make sure I'm only adding details where necessary. The trees and grass are from the Botanic add-on. I use these assets for any outdoor scene I'm working on, so it does a lot of heavy lifting for me. Let's make the falling leaves. I imported an atlas from the Megascans library and cut out a few individual leaves with the knife tool. I added some extra edges along each leaf so I could add a bit of depth to them. The particle emitter is a plane hovering above the scene. Just make sure to toggle Show Emitter in both the viewport and render dropdowns. Set it to render a collection and point it to the leaves collection. We can add a simple wind force field to make it more interesting. Let's revisit this asphalt material. I'm adding a fallen leaves material and painting the mask in like I did before. This was one of the main things I wasn't completely happy with. I'm not sure how it works in Unreal Engine, but the original render had some great 3D shape to the leaves. I tried a bunch of different methods like metaballs and sculpting. I also came across this weird issue with black sections in the asset. I tried playing with the transparency bounces, but it was quite stubborn. Eventually I got it looking okay by tweaking the material, but if anyone knows of a better technique for piling up leaves, I'd love to know. Anyway, onto the building. I decided to try the Quixel modular assets. I turned on snapping and began creating the building. It's quite fun, like playing with Lego or something, but these assets were very dense. By the time the building was finished, I had almost 1,000,000 extra polygons in the scene. I had to decimate these meshes like crazy, and thankfully they were in the background. I think overall, I still prefer the Ian Hubert way of making buildings. I put a black cube behind the building to darken the windows. The other buildings are from the free Kitbash assets. This is where I decided to replace the wood fence with a stone wall. I didn't like the repetition of the wood, and this new asset seemed to fit the scene better overall. Here I decided to try and add some fog to break up the scene. I'm not sure why, but I'm missing a bunch of assets that I normally use, and I only realized it while making this scene. I tried to make do with some other fog assets, but it wasn't working for me. I also tried using the mist pass, but for some reason it kept crashing Blender. I ended up going the classic route of a giant cube with a principled volume material. This completely changed the mood of the scene, and I leaned on that and pushed it more into a Silent Hill kind of vibe. It's good to play with different lighting setups, even this late into the process. You never know when you'll stumble onto a happy accident that might change the entire feeling of a scene. This add-on is one of my new favorites. It's called Lens Sim, and it lets you turn the Blender camera into a physically based one, with natural vignetting and chromatic aberration. It comes with a bunch of preset lenses, like the Helios 44-2. Normally I blur the render by 1 pixel in the compositor, but these lenses have a natural softness and help break up the overly perfect look of a digital render. I have an affiliate link in the description if you want to check it out. Let's add a character. This is a free one from CG Trader. I had to manually locate all of the materials and move the keyframes in pose mode to line the animation up, since I already knew which frame I wanted to render on. Here, I'm using my add-on grainy to generate a single frame of grain, which I'll composite over the final render. I also added some glare and diamond sharpen. We've strayed a bit from the original reference, but it's good to mix things up. I like the darker feeling of this. It reminds me of the Silent Hill games. Here, I'm adding an area light and using Blender's light linking options to make it only affect the character. This helps make the character pop without affecting the rest of the scene. I also added a spotlight just under the light post to create the god rays you see in the final render. Feel free to create other cameras and try different angles and focal lengths. This is the fun part. You get to walk around the scene and try out different shots like a cinematographer. Finally, let's add a light in one of the windows. I wonder who's awake at this hour. I've had people ask me for slower videos of the full process, so I've added the unedited version to my Patreon. There's no audio, but you can put your favorite playlist on and see how I tackle some of these challenges in real time if that's your thing. If you find this content valuable, please like and subscribe so I know to make more. Thanks everyone, I hope you found the video helpful.